Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to The Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your host and your guide along the way. And today I am back talking to Jay Gilligan. These are some episodes from a while ago, and in a few episodes still ahead, we are going to be meeting Malin Nilsson, an incredible Swedish magician. That we got 2 episodes with her lined up, and during a gig that she organizes every year in the end of the year when there was so much snow in Sweden, in Malmö. Jay Gilligan and I were both booked by her to do this incredibly wonderful little variety show in Victoria Teatern, which is a theater that Malin Nilsson collaborates with a lot. And we're going to talk a lot more about her there. But anyway, that afforded Jay Gilligan and I to record some conversations, and there's I believe there's 5 in all, and they're going to come up in between here as we move forward. And the great thing about that was that we've got into this routine, because every day Jay had to roll these balls. This is the so-called Ivar Balls that he closed his show with for the first time. I think that he closed the show with it anyway in Reflex. But whether he closed the show in another show or not doesn't really matter. But you have heard about it on the podcast, and now these episodes are recorded whilst he is making that juggling prop, and that takes about 20 minutes. But once we started talking, it took about an hour each day. So, that was the opportunity. And while I have you here, if you would like to support the podcast, then the first and easiest step is just to click and follow the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast wherever it is that you download it. But secondly, my beautiful wife, Miranda Mahalo, has created a little bit of an expansion on our merch. So there are T-shirts that now have the famous logo on the front, and on the back it says "Follow the Way." And we also have hats that's both with the logo, and we have it that it says "The Way of the Showman." So click on over there, and if you get a hat or a shirt, I am much excited. It is much appreciated, and I am much excited, as I just said, for you to walk around the world spreading the way of the showman with anyone that sees you, even if it is just subliminally. It would make a great deal of difference to me if anyone did that. So anyway, without further ado, we're gonna is it adieu? I think it actually is without further ado, but I have somehow drifted towards saying adieu. I might stop drifting that way. So let's talk to Jay. All right, so we have the pleasure of being together doing a gig, which is a rare occasion.
Yeah, man.
But we are in Malmö, Sweden. We're invited by the excellent Malin Nilsson to do a sweet cabaret here at the Victoria Theatre in Malmö. And we opened last night, and it was a hands-down success, sold out, and great audience and incredible response. So that's good. So in the wake of all of that, we're sitting here in your hotel room, and you have a pile of ribbons and feathers and confetti and leaves and all sorts of stuff, and you are rolling it into your infamous, famous, beautiful, poetic image of you juggling the so-called Ivar Balls. But let's not get distracted by talking about artistic content of shows and stuff. We talked about this and when we talked about Reflex. But now I would like to go a little bit more. It's winter, it's raining, sleeting outside, and it's a time for quiet reflection as to what we do, despite the fact that we're staying together in the same hotel and having all of this. This is a rare occasion for us to sort of work on a gig where it's just really, it's sometimes you're alone and you're working a corporate gig, you're doing stuff that is a bit sort of one person on the road away from your family.
but we are now together. So this is good. But it's the kind of stuff that I think about when feeling a little bit down. And I'm going in the journey as an artist. We both have a long career. Does life get easier?
Well, I have a couple thoughts about that, my friend.
Oh, good.
So one is on a very kind of mundane, practical level.
Yeah.
And I had this reflection, I don't know, a couple years ago. So I'm 48 years old. I've been juggling for 40 years. And my reflection a couple years ago was on a very, I know you're asking existentially this question, but on a practical level.
It's all of the above, yeah.
Yeah, but practically juggling never gets easier.
That's interesting.
And it kind of drives me, it's starting to drive me more crazy. It's starting to disturb me more the older I get. So of course, with practice, we get better. I don't mean that, right? Like on a technical level, we can say that the more experience you have, juggling gets easier. If you've never juggled 5 balls before, well, if you practice for thousands of hours, then that's easier. But it's something about the performing of juggling doesn't get, the pressure of performing juggling never gets easier. I get more experience as I get older. I have more tools to navigate the experience of juggling, performing juggling on stage. But the brutal truth of like, you catch it or you don't, that never gets easier. Like it doesn't, every time I step on, I'm not saying I'm nervous, but every time I step on stage, it's still, I'm confronted, and we talked about this last night, I'm confronted with that fundamental building block of like base level. Like if you throw the thing, you're going to catch it. And at the very least, that's a cultural expectation. We can start to find theatrics where we swerve around that. We change the conversation. We redefine success or whatever. But fundamentally, the conversation starting with like, oh, it's a juggler.
Yeah.
He's going to throw something and catch it.
Yeah.
And in that equation, the speed of gravity never changes. The human reflexes doesn't change, except that I get older, so they maybe get worse. And also then the complexities of life pile up. So maybe my time spent training gets reduced, having a family or logistics of doing business. But like, it was a reflection a couple of years ago where, and I'm really speaking out of turn here, but from what I understand, like hand to hand acrobatics, don't they get better as they get older? Like their symbiosis, I think, gets deeper. This is what I've heard, that pair acrobats, the longer and longer they work together, like because they Henrik and Louise, and like this, you develop that communication between two people that makes the technique easier. Again, I'm completely speaking out of turn.
Yeah.
We don't do any acrobatics, but there's maybe one example of like the longer I do this discipline, or maybe handstand. I've heard too. I've talked to some people who do hand balancing, and they say, "Oh yeah, now I've done it 30 years, and now I know it like innately." And they're talking about the technique, but I think there is
10,000 hours principle or whatever. They've been upside down for 10,000 hours and navigated all the different mistakes, and they can fix it through their body or whatever. Or
maybe we do that with our juggling technique too. But there's something.
Yeah, but there's still that. I still feel that there's a difference with as soon as the ball leaves the hand and it goes up, the parameters and degrees of freedom that the ball has and the different heights. There's so many parameters that makes it its travel and it's
all your
this sort of stuff. And but I don't know about that. I don't know about about whether it gets easier for other things or whatever. But it's interesting. I'm doing 3 different acts here in the middle act where I'm doing the sword. I don't get to do that so often. So
you do
that's
sword swallowing.
Sword swallowing, yeah. I swallow a sword, but it's mainly that is the last thing that I do, but it is also the thing that takes the shortest in a sense. Everything builds up to it. We don't know what it is. That act, as much as I've already performed it, I don't know, 600 times or something, because I did it a couple of seasons where I did it 100, no, maybe 400-500 times. Something. Let's not get bugged in the numbers, but I have done it many times, and it has had major iterations. And I'm feeling like last night and whatever, I'm feeling like maybe it's time for the music to change, to be more of a talking act again, and to build up this stuff of mystery and stuff that's in it. But anyway, what was I saying with that? Oh yeah, so I have a different feeling when I go on to do that act than I have when I go on to do the rackets or the cans. Because there I am, they are so second nature that all I need to focus on is the audience.
Well,
Standing on one leg, doing all the other things, so like being on the cans, all this, I can really play with the moment and be present, just present with the audience, which we've talked about 2 episodes of recently about us stage presence. But so maybe that's an example from my world that I'm going, those acts, they are actually easier. I'm sitting on the cans. I'm not throwing anything. I'm sitting there. I can feel it in my bum where it touches the can when I'm putting my legs behind my head. And it's, it's pretty much under my control. And those are now easier to do. And I can imagine that I could do versions of pretty much this for a very long time.
I'm with you. I mean, obviously, like my act I did last night in the show here with you, I had no trepidation. I had no nervousness. I had no problems, no friction. It was just pure joy, honestly, because I knew how to navigate the performance element of it. And I mean, still fundamentally, we talked last night, I am confronted. I come out on stage and I go, well, I throw this thing. People want me to catch it. And so that never gets easier. But of course, the performing last night was just a pure joy. It reminds me of something that Jérôme Thomas said to me, the French juggler, and we don't need to comment more about him other than this comment, which was that he said to me, he said, I can never do a bad show. And of course, well, we're not going to talk about his arrogance, but because it sounds very arrogant, the comment. But actually, that's like one rare moment when there was some truth there. And what he meant was, I could never do a bad show. He had been performing for 30 years. Of course, he could do a show that was better or worse, but he had some sort of base level established in his life through his experience, where it's like he now had the tools under his control. That he had a confidence that he could rely upon, that at the very least he wasn't going to do a bad show, right? Like he knew enough tricks and tips, and he could pull out.
If this fails, if that fails, if this fails, I will do this thing, and that will sort of win them back and prove the point or whatever. So me too. It's like we come off after the shows, even at Mad Apple, and go down. How was that? Oh yeah, wasn't my favorite. I felt like this. I was a bit in my head, but we are talking. Yeah. It's like you're delivering out of 8 out of 10, and sometimes it felt like 6. But then when you went out afterwards and talked to the audience, which we have to do, then you go, the reactions are indistinguishable. From them. So sometimes it's yourself or whatever. So we're in this thing of going like, I have better and worse days, but a lot of that has to do with my attitude and my own experience of the thing. It's not bringing the actual act down to a certain level. So I can fully appreciate that point.
It's definitely coming to the, it's kind of seeing the real point of the performance, where as a performer, you can get hung up on your ego. No, it's not even ego, but just the insider knowledge or the details of what you're doing.
That joke sometimes works better. Oh, I fumbled this bit here, so that had this lead.
I normally do 20 catches and I did 18 because I thought I was going to have a collision. Like, and
so
in the end, but at the end of the day, we have a bigger vision of what we're actually trying to accomplish. And it's not about you told that joke 2.5 seconds after the fall instead of 2.3 seconds after. And the point is that we're having this experience in the moment with the audience. And in that way, I think that's what Jérôme meant. Jérôme Thomas was like, I can never do a bad show. And I think about that, like, and I'm glad to have that. So in that way, I can definitely think that the older we get, the easier it does get, because when I was young, I didn't have that confidence on my backbone to be like, I can never do a bad show, right? Like it was still always there was a negotiation there. I'm not saying it was always on the edge of like falling apart, but definitely there was always the option that it could go wrong.
Yeah, it was just, that's right. Well, and if nothing else, you felt it more acutely because you didn't have this thing of going like, even when I go off and I felt like that was a hard slog, I go through the motions and I know the beats of the jokes and I know the sort of stuff. I'm not reinventing the wheel. So you know that often when they sit there and they're relatively quiet, there's still a certain level to the performance. So I agree. On that level, your professionalism and your experience improves your situation to make the actual performance of your art easier.
Right. I always think, I don't know how you feel if you do a premiere or something of a new show. I always have the same saying I have in my head when I do the premiere of a new show. many times on a new show, I'm pretty stressed. I don't get nervous. The only time I get nervous is when my parents are watching.
Oh yeah.
There's something very deeply personal about like proving my, whatever
Choices.
Yeah, validating like I'm a juggler and I didn't grow up to be a doctor or whatever. There's all this like, cultural expectation there that whether they impose it upon me or not. It's the narrative of where I grew up in Ohio. But so I'm not nervous. I'm not talking about being nervous, but I do get stressed. I'm just like, because it is that thing you're in your head. You're like, what comes next? And what, I often play my own music and run my own lights. And it's like, oh yeah, not just juggling, but what am I going to say next? And what do I have to press next? And what prop do I have to pick up? And what do I have to put away? And it's all this practical things in my head. So I get very stressed. And I always think this to myself after I do the premiere. I go, oh yeah, now I know I'm not going to die. Like, so the second time I do the show, I go, at the very least, we know we're all going to get through this alive.
Yeah.
And that's the language I use. I'm not going to die. And then that's kind of this minimalist version of like, I can never do a bad show. I'm like, well, at least I'm not going to fall over dead.
Yeah.
And then that gets me through the second show, right? With the confidence that I didn't have before.
Yeah. Because you've done it as proof of concept that it existed. And
right.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. Like you go into something and you go, I have no idea what we're doing here. And then at some point during the process or before you go on, going, hang on, I know how to do shows.
That's true.
But that doesn't stop me from also having me before doing new shows and then shows where I'm selling tickets and whatever. And you put in those shows that you organize your own season or whatever, like you did with maybe with another sunset or something. Mm-hmm. That's a small sort of thing. And you got like, and I'm putting on something and then you're selling tickets and it's not going so well because my skill is absolutely in making shows, not in selling tickets and all that sort of stuff. And you worry. And then I'm going like, why do I do this to myself? You sort of question it, go, why am I putting all this stuff together and I work so hard like to do it? And what is it? There's something inside me that sort of is driving towards that, of course. But whatever, that has happened several times where, well, I'm sitting just before you'd made some new work and you're putting yourself out there. Like I've just been writing about this when I'm putting out that poem, The Illuminated Showman, and I early on in the show talk and basically do a sort of poem. And in the beginning, it didn't have the funny and moment, didn't have the magic elements that it sort of has now. So it was less than, and I was just like, how is this going to go? Because some of the show is hinging on their reaction to this, then you sort of go, why don't I just do the jokes and stuff? And like, why am I pushing into these other?
I mean, related to like the practical stuff you were talking, you mentioned briefly now self-producing a show where you're also maybe selling the tickets and doing the administrative work and the production side of things as well as the artistic side. We can relate that back to this idea of like, I did the premiere and I didn't die. For me, because I was going to talk about it artistically, but we can expand that to the business side too, where you go, this is a new venture for me. I'm in new territory, and therefore everything is equally important or equally not important. Mm-hmm. And because if it's equally not important, it's all equally important. Mm-hmm. So when you're making a new show, you're like, oh, I'm going to do this trick, and then I'm going to say this line, and then I'm going to put this coat on. But you don't know which of those three things has a hierarchy of impact on the audience.
Yeah.
And that's when you do the show 200 times and you direct audio and you say, now I know what the show is about. What he means is he's figuring out his hierarchy of importance of moments.
Some of them in the hierarchy go so low that they actually get weeded out.
Yep.
And some get foregrounded and we change a lighting cue here or whatever to bring that out. Because this is the beautiful part of it. So new.
Well, for me, in terms of, because I love the way you said the question, like, is the older we get, are these things getting easier or harder? Like, how's this going? For me, I love it when the show starts to reveal itself in the way of like what is important and not, because then you start to learn when you can breathe and when you can hold back so that you can actually heighten those more important moments. It's not about just identifying the important moments and then like, always concentrating on them. What I love is like those important moments are the ones you can almost leave alone. Like, you know what I mean? In the like in the curation of your progress. Yeah. And so instead of like, it's not like finding the important moments to then punch them up. They're already punched up. what it is finding the moments that aren't the peak moments so that you yourself know that those are not the peak moments.
So don't try to sell the moment at the same level.
Exactly.
Of the,
or in selling, and not even about selling, don't you yourself waste extra energy of stress inside of you
to fix this moment.
Because
this is a build up to
I can give you a little example. So I did this new show, Stories About Gravity. We just watched the video together this morning. And when I first started making that show, I had a blank slate. What's the show going to be? I don't know. I'm making a new show. And this started rather with a practical situation than an artistic idea. I had an invitation to come do a show somewhere. So that's where the process started. And then I said, well, here's an opportunity. I want to fill that opportunity with something. What am I going to fill it with?
Yeah.
And okay, I knew it was a small venue, very small, like 14 people watching or 20 people or something. So I said, oh, I should get objects that are that I couldn't maybe normally use, things that are small and detailed and tiny and to reflect the size of the venue. Yeah. So I got this old vintage, like KGB, reel-to-reel tape recorder, like Nagra, reel-to-reel tape that the spies used to put in their coats to like record the conversations of the enemy or whatever. And I was going to play the whole soundtrack on this little machine. And as a set design and as a little object of curiosity, and I thought, it would be so charming. I would have this old warm analog sound and everything. And I bought the damn thing. I mean, it's not easy to find, and
I can imagine
it's not easy to make it work. And I had to get another box from Japan, custom made, to make it even interface with today's electricity and audio signals. And it was like a whole thing. I put a lot of effort and money into this part of my process. And then as I'm doing the show, I start to realize nobody cares about this reel to reel. This is a distraction, because a show started to emerge that was other than that road, right? And you saw the video today.
Yeah.
And I played music. I triggered music in the video. You did not care about that because I was doing something else, right?
Yeah, you were telling another story, and it's clear that there's a soundtrack, and it's one of your things. You're pushing your own music, but it was a little keyboard-looking thing, and you would know it's an insignificant kind of thing. You just push it, and it's the next one, it's the next one, it's the next one. And
so there's a moment. So that's a great example of when I started my process. I thought everything was equally important because I didn't know what was important. And I go, well, when I play the music, that's got to be cool. And when I turn the light on, that's got to be cool. And then as I started through the process, I go,
as you start to focus more on stories and gravity,
right,
or whatever. Like this is the.
And then I go, playing the music is not the thing I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And then I can dial that back to the point where I cut that machine from the show.
Yeah. Take the machine out, and there's no the aesthetic of that is not so important. Also, it's because you're running out of time, and you did have other cool gadgets as well, so you're filling the thing of that's yet another machine, and it actually makes it harder because the way you work. That I would imagine.
But we can also take that, and we don't have to stick with it on an artistic level. We can say like, if you're self-producing, then it's like, I gotta make the graphic design of the ticket that the audience gets, and I have to, I gotta make sure my Instagram caption has the right hashtag. And which is maybe really important. I don't know. But like what I mean is in that process, it's also flat hierarchy when you start. Where everything is equally mysterious. But then once you do 2 or 3 seasons, like Malin has done here in her theater, it's the 10th season, she sells out the show, every ticket.
Yeah, before it starts, I believe,
So she started to learn, I'm sure, over the course of 10 years, what is important and where to focus your energy and where not, more importantly, where not to focus your energy.
Which is an interesting thing that she actually brought up a little bit, because we walk in and there is a picture of the cast on the thing, but it's the cast from last year. And last night, after that show, we took a picture, and I had this sort of deja vu kind of thing, because you even used a confetti cannon to take the picture after the show. I mean, the whole audience was taking a picture of us by that point, but we went off, and then we came back on again and took a group photo. And I'm like, this is the poster for next year that we just took.
Right,
so
there's a great,
She has gotten to a point where she's like, she's using a new picture each year, but it is of last year's cast. And I'm going, the show will be a little bit like this, but they trust her as the host and the organizer of the venue and of the show, and they love her for it. And the word has spread to the point that they just go, we're coming because we trust her and her curation of this thing. It will be amazing. And the picture on the front is in part why you buy it, because you go, that's right, those people, that was so great. We are ordering tickets because it sells out.
Right.
So they book their tickets again, and then early sales.
So when you first asked the question, now you said like,
Does it get easier?
Yeah, is our life getting easier? And then
does the artist's lives get easier?
And I just had that little reflection of like, well, juggling. I don't think juggling is a discipline that ever gets like easier for whatever reason. I mean,
yeah.
But then I think the other avenue to take on the answer is,
because this is this is the way of the showman, and showman has two aspects. It's the show aspect, which we've just talked about, the on stage and those kind of things. But then you have the man, the human, the mankind, the human being of it. And there's like, because there's a lot of things that comes with this that I have a changing relationship over time. It has to do with travel. It has to do with loving people that can't always be with you on the tour, and about spending time alone, and about the nature of finishing the show and then going to the airport and then driving to the other thing, and flights being cancelled and you needing to make last. So that all of that stuff, which.
Well, I have
what does that get easier?
Well, I have a couple of stories about that, and then maybe but they're not so big or deep, and then maybe you have
I don't have anything particularly deep. It's because it's just an ongoing thing in my life where I feel these things.
Well, so a couple of answers. Number one is, like, man, I felt. I mean, this goes to Ivar Hector, and he's really into the Rudolf Steiner philosophy, and which I don't understand at all. You're much more familiar than I am with it. But Ivar has these kind of epochs of life, like when you're 20, this happens. When you're 30, this happens. When you're 40, this happens. And I don't know those details. He knows it very well, and but it did make me think about that. This kind of almost cyclical nature of our lives, or like these eras or whatever, these rhythms on decades.
Yep.
And up until I was 40, I always felt that juggling and performing was a widening of my life. Like I'm opening my hands in a V right now, and it's getting wider and wider because it affords me more and more and more opportunities. Since I turned 40, I really feel it's a narrowing now. And it's almost like, and I'm sure this is a whole, whatever.
This is what brings this to. I'm going,
midlife, but it's like midlife crisis. I mean, I'm sure we find this idea I'm talking about a narrowing in so many other areas of life than performing. But I picked a lane, and now this is the midlife crisis thing. I have picked my lane, and now I'm in it. And I feel that more and more the older I get. I had a meme that I sent to Eric Von Jekyll, who I did the Alien show with. And the meme said something like, be careful what you choose to learn, because that's what you will get good at. And I sent it to him with the word juggling ? As a little stupid, as memes are, these little disposable stupid things right now. But it was really this poignant thing of like, hey, Frodo, be careful what you choose to get good at, because that's what you will be good at. And now you can swallow a sword. And so I find that, so on one hand, I find this narrowing, and I have a good example of that narrowing, which is the pandemic was very galvanizing for that kind of epiphany, where prior to the financial crash, like in 2008, when all of like the Dubai corporate stuff dried up and all the kind of event work, I was never really a corporate event performer. But of course, my friends really felt that ripple of the global financial crisis. And I might, but anyway, I just mean that like there was the 2008 financial crisis, and then there was the pandemic. And in both of those cases, I kind of always felt, I don't want to say bulletproof. That's the wrong way. I don't really have that kind of egotistical or arrogance or something like, oh, I'm so bulletproof with my living situation or my career or something. But like, I was always like, hey, at the end of the day, I can go on the street and like, I can do street shows. I did that when I was a kid. I did street shows with Sean McKinney in Boulder, Colorado, and New York. We did some street shows and stuff. I'm like, at the end of the day, I can always go perform birthday parties and street shows. And that is, that's not a derogatory statement.
No.
I mean that with the utmost respect.
Well, you would put the effort that you put into whatever you're doing now, and put that into making the perfect experience.
And also because we both used to do those things to make a living, So, but some people do say like, oh, yeah, I guess I'll go do some birthday parties, as if it's like a step down or something. And I don't mean it as a step
Birthday
down.
parties or kid shows in general, and then you have people like Mario who takes it on, and Katie being a part in that too, and going like, you don't have to impress someone just to do that other thing, because you can put your love and your care into doing a family audience, and now he is just slamming it across the world with his show and all that. Man. So that's like...
so then in the financial crisis, we saw the reduction in our industry of like corporate gigs. Like I said, I wasn't doing that so much. So I felt a little bit skating above the surface of all that, kind of avoiding all that trouble, because I was doing more theatrical things or culture-based things that were not relied upon that market. But pandemic came, and then all of a sudden it was like Achilles' heel of like, audiences can't gather. And then you go like, oh, wait a second. My genius plan of like, I can always go to street shows,
recession proof,
or birthday parties or whatever. You're like, oh, actually you can't legally do that anymore. And so that made me start to reflect on this narrowing of like my midlife, not a crisis, but my midlife journey of like, I felt the opportunities going, diminishing instead of expanding. And then I said, actually, I sat down in the pandemic. I said, could I really make a living street performing right now? Could I really, like, theoretically I could, but could I in practice do it? Do I have the physical stamina?
Get up in the morning, see, okay, can I do it? It's only raining a little bit.
Exactly.
It looks like it's not going to be, okay, I'm going to get on a train. I have my gear. I go out and I do it. Oh, that started raining halfway through.
Yeah.
Have you got the stamina and the drive to do that?
Mental and physical fortitude. And I came to the conclusion that I don't, right?
Yeah, interesting.
Like I don't think I could make a living street performing anymore. Like I'm not saying I'm too good. I'm saying I'm too bad. I lost those skills. I lost the ability. I mean, I could do it for a day or two. I mean, you could go to a street show right now and it'd be a blast. But to make a living at it, that's a different conversation. And I think part of that too is we also, as you get older, you just have higher and higher standards in one way of what the work means to you, which is what you're also going to get into later about this kind of existential, like, what are we doing here? Are we just making money, or what? Like, does it feed us more than food or whatever? But so, every show I make, it's kind of like I take it less and less for granted that I made a new show, because for me, that it's just I told you about a recent creation that was like climbing a mountain again, like the highest mountain in the world. And every new show that exists, I take less and less for granted, because the process is, I don't know if it's harder and harder, but my standards are higher and higher of like what the work needs to be in terms of the level the experience I want to give the audience, and also.
And where it starts. The starting point as well is when you come to see Captain Frodo, you expect a certain level. And just like yesterday,
right?
In that going, I watched this guy who was doing stuff when I first was a juggler, and they go, here he is, Jay Gilligan. And then you come on, and that sets a certain expectation. And they go, and when I first heard that we had the possibility of doing this variety, I asked him, but that's 10 years ago, and I've asked him every year since then, and this is the first time it suited with this schedule.
Yeah.
So then you come on, and I'm like, oh, I better be good now.
I know.
Like you just built it up. So to come on, and I, like when I was doing street shows and I went out onto the street in Copenhagen and did something, I would literally go like, I think I'm going to try this thing with this prop.
Yeah.
And then you go, that was good because I got something out of it. And then you did that, and I did, 3 shows that day. So then the next day I came back, and by the end of that week, I might have done that 25 times, and that's now developed into something, and nobody really cares. But now I come out, and it does have to work at a different level. That's just basically corroborating what you just say. But it's there's a certain expectation to the kind of gigs that I get. I'm going to do a solo show at this culture house and on this theater, go in, and then they come in and they expect me to function on many different levels, and they don't know it, but they come in, and you need to be able to do what you say, and you need to be able to create the enthusiasm, you need to be able to control the families and the situation and blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of expectation to it. And when I'm making a new show or making a new act, I work a lot harder and longer on it. So that bit, I don't know if it gets easier, but maybe it is a little bit like with what you were saying in the very beginning, juggling doesn't get easier yet. When you come out there and you open up and you do the thing, you're jamming with a brand new band, two people playing music, and it's cool, but it's like you're finding your thing for your act, and you start out and you're juggling just 3 balls, and you're going, okay, this bit at least is like, this is within your comfortability range because you've done that bit so much that it's like that's kind of easier. Yet, as the act goes on, you go to the places where it is actually difficult for you as well, to some extent. So that point will be continually changing, I think. So that's how it is with me too. It's like when I know that I have the trick and the story and whatever, then I start to look, well, how does these two things go together? How does this reference itself from this bit? And how does the whole show get built up? So there's endlessly new things to think about. And in the beginning, you're just blissfully unaware. So you just do it. And you don't see that. And then I start to find these questions more complicated as I get older or whatever. So I put more into it. So in that way, it stays difficult in the actual creation of stuff because you're aware of more levels that it needs to work at. It needs to have some subtext, or it can't just be, here's a cool juggling trick, here's another one.
Right. It's like the less naive you get, the more you get shouldered with different responsibilities then for the work, or like you're just more aware that the work could go in different directions or deeper connections, or
maybe
it could have more, I don't know,
so that
impact in different ways.
Yeah, it keeps the creation of the work at this level where you're going like, you keep challenging yourself and you keep pushing and you keep expecting more from the piece from the beginning. Whereas maybe I had already performed it on stage or on the street like for a year by the time it had this kind of richness, because it was enough for me just to get the laugh. Right. And then, or whatever. And then now you want more. So you think through more.
To go back, my other kind of second story about the, when you were talking about, all the practical things of like, maybe you're on the road and you're away from your family. Like there's all these different aspects to the work. I have a little story. So I was in this Circus Circore show Inside Out, and it had maybe 20 people on tour. And I really find some sort of rhythm in my life, if I should generalize, which is hard, right? Like I mean, it's never really, you're kind of making it all up in retrospect, but each project I do is a response to the one I did before, kind of. Yeah. It's always a reaction, and sometimes in a reaction in the opposite direction, because you're just like, I did a show with 20 people on tour, and there's all those aspects of that are good, but there's also many that like I was frustrated with. Yeah. And so I made a project. I go, I'm going to do a solo show. And in that show, I'm going to run the lights myself and do the music myself and do the juggling myself and do the set design myself and do the setup and tear down myself. And I'm going to be alone. And it wasn't so much a social reaction to the project. It was more of a logistical, being sick of being part of a big machine and not having autonomy and, freedom and all those things. That's like, great. And also there was some sort of idea to the project where if I could control all those things on stage in real time, I could adjust the show in real time to what I was getting back from the audience and kind of tweak the show and make it more necessary for that moment, for that occasion. So that was like a really hard thing to do, but I did it. I mean, it was another whole conversation maybe about that artistic process. But I devised a performance where I controlled all the elements of the stage production in real time from the stage. And then I remember I had my first booking, and this is the punchline of the story. I had the first booking, so I'm like, yep, I can carry the show myself. I can fly. I can get into the taxi alone. It's not too much equipment for that. I get to the theater. I have this many hours to set up. I can do that alone. I don't need help. I did the whole show. Oh, the audience was a bit more rowdy, so I turned up the lights brighter and I put faster music and I juggled harder. Yeah, it's all working. Oh, I packed it all up and I went to the hotel, and I swear to God, I get to the hotel that first night and I sit alone in the room and I'm like, oh, now I'm alone. It was only then that the social aspect hit me. Yeah, I was so focused on the reactionary against the big touring show that I wanted to have all this freedom and autonomy, creatively and artistically. And then it wasn't until I sat alone that night in the hotel room and I go, oh, I'm alone. This is kind of boring.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm in the town. I don't know.
Exactly.
Exactly. So
So that was kind of funny, right? Like
but you and me have that capacity to just get deep into it, just in the work, and it's that all.
Right.
We shorthand it by Miranda going, "Oh yeah, so where's Jay living?" You know, I didn't ask him about that. And going, "Oh yeah, is his family here?" Oh, actually, I forgot to ask about that. Because you and me just get straight into this kind of stuff. And,
right. That's true. That is symbolic of like the focus of the work for me, and for you, it's the ideas and the artistic intent and kind of the logistics and the externalization and maybe the business side and the more social side. It's not the
then you
focus.
Get there. Yeah, and then I get there and this thing of going, how do you deal with the fact that you then are spending this time alone, which I then do, even when you are with a group that I have done the majority of my career, I would say, with soiree and whatever. Just the fact that I'm an early riser or whatever, that means that I have several hours before even my wife or people get up or whatever in there. So I'd spend, and then I have developed things that I do, so that I have secondary things that I do to fill my time. Not just fill my time by watching movies and stuff, because that only fulfills you somewhat, or me anyway. And when I need to be fulfilled, I need to be doing something. I can't just be passively receiving something, although I do that all the time when I'm listening to things and I'm watching things and listening to lectures and taking stuff in so many ways, reading poetry or whatever it is that I'm doing, listening to music, to deliberately get inspired or whatever. But there are times when you just have to do something. And that is, we all procrastinate, or I certainly do. And then they get on the road, and now it's feels even more, because now I'm away and I don't have all the family and this stuff around me. That is a place where you can put your love and your energy. So then when you're on the road, I push myself harder to do it, because I know if I get to the end of 2 days and I've just been binge watching some series or whatever, then I feel much more empty if I then get back home again and haven't actually done anything. But if I go out and I've furthered my writing, which is my go-to thing, developing my ideas and my book projects, never eventuating book projects, then that's like, that gives me something. So I guess that's like...
So in that way, do you find that kind of making your life easier because you have found ways to navigate that situation?
Yeah, certainly it does. That has made it easier, but I've done that also for a long time. So I started getting serious into writing or whatever when I was in, apart from what I've written when I was growing up, which is like juvenilia. And then I had a second phase of juvenilia starting in the mid-90s when I was living in Denmark, and where I started writing stories and writing other things. And I did that in between, and to deal with the times when I was alone or whatever.
This is a totally embarrassing middle-aged person question, but like we're both basically same age, and I get worried. Like, I had an offer of a gig the other day, and it was like, if I was 18 years old and I wanted to sleep on somebody's, literally on their floor, and take a flight at 4 a.m. and take 5 different connections and have a 28-hour travel, this would have been a great gig,
Yeah.
And then I go, I can't do it anymore. Again, it's like that idea of like, oh, I could always just go to a street show. And you go, actually, I don't have the mental and physical fortitude needed to survive in that context. And now that gig, I'm just like, I don't want to sleep on the floor. I could technically sleep on the floor. I'm not above it in terms of like being arrogant. I just can't physically and mentally like deal with it. And the travel and the 28 hours travel and all that stuff. And then I get really stressed out that like, I don't want to become, there is that, maybe, I don't know how it is in Norway, but for me growing up in Ohio in America, there's a cultural kind of cliche that old people just shrink into a cocoon and get cranky, right?
Yeah.
And they get upset about everything. It's that get off my lawn, meme or trope, where it's like they're screaming at every new thing. They don't want to have any new sensations and whatever. And then I start to feel like I'm turning into that, where I'm like, oh, if I was 18, I would have taken this gig and it would have been an adventure and I would have learned. And I think back on all those things we did do when we were young, and we learned so much, and it was such a crazy, and now that I say no to stuff like that, and I get really worried, I'm like, oh, am I turning into this? Like, it's a real philosophical kind of, I don't know, do you relate to that, or do you do that?
I do relate to that. But what I also, maybe I'm finding fortitude in Ivar Hexer's idea of the changes that comes over time. Each decade brings with it certain things, and in the beginning you go, no, I'm exploding all that. I'm doing everything all the time, and I'm just like going crazy bananas. There's no rules that apply to me. And you go, don't tell me how old you are, but let me guess.
Right.
Like, you're not 59. We know that. And you're not 3. And you're not even, most likely, not 35. Like, you are in your late teens, probably in your 20s. This is when this is coming out. And each decade you are learning stuff that everybody to some extent learns. And of course, everyone is not the same, yet we are also very much the same. Biology is going to be the death of us all. So all of those things will come in, and we're going, oh yeah, midlife crisis. But you can also say, I am middle-aged, which is another way of saying I'm halfway to death.
Yeah.
And then I am not existing anymore. And I spent quite a bit of time reading Sartre and reading Camus and finding that really interesting, and thinking like you do, oh yeah, I got the measure of death now. And then time moves on and you get a child, and my relation to whether I exist or not changes. Just going, I can't crush this person by leaving them behind. How they're going to be. Like, I'm going, I need to be the first to go. I don't want to. And then you have a different thing came into my life of like, these things have changed a bit in how I need to be. But anyway, and then so your relationship to death, your relationship to what you choose to do with your life and everything, that changes. So I am aware that there are gigs and things that I am not so interested in doing anymore, like you. There comes opportunities where it goes, oh, I need to get home there, then jump in. And I mean, that said, I said yes to leaving America, landing at 9:30 at night, and then driving again the next morning at 9:30 to drive 5 hours to do a gig.
Yeah.
But in the end, that ended up being the good thing after much thinking, because of the people that I drove to be with and blah, blah, blah. But so I still do some things where you go, that's the old person stuff. And
100%.
You do those things
I
too.
literally just did it 2 weeks ago when I flew from America, drove 7 hours into the premiere of the new show.
So we've both had that. So as much as we both go, oh, and then this was offered to me, but I was going to do 28. But then when the situation is right, because there's something in it that is, to me, was the people that I work with that I haven't had the opportunity to work with because I've been so much in Vegas and all that. So I've said no to a bunch of stuff with people that I really like to work with.
Yeah.
And then I just thought it was good. And then I did this. Got back in the car, drove 5 hours, was there, worked every day for 4 days. 2 of the days were show days, 2 days were creation days. And and then my family came down, and I drove back home again.
Okay, that's a good point. That makes me feel good. Yeah, we still do it when we're still stupid sometimes.
Yeah, but it's like previously I wouldn't have turned down any of those kind of, because you go, oh, well, this will be fun, and then I'll just sleep on that person's floor and we drive.
Right.
So things change, but that doesn't mean that I don't do stuff and that I don't still.
Well, you kind of touched on it now for a second. You said, I'd love to dive into more of what you think about that. Where you said, for example, well, it's these people I don't normally get to work with because I've been in Vegas a lot. And then this brings up the topic of like, are we working for money? Are we working for what else can we work for besides money? On which there obviously is something, but what would that be? And you've been talking about that a little bit with me past couple of days, where it's like, what are we doing here? Am I just trying to pay the bills, or am I? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, it's what is the? Is there a difference? Because we've gotten far enough in our career that you can actually ask those questions. It's like we both have work that gets a certain kind of booking or whatever. And then I at least end up doing a lot of repetition of the same sort of stuff. And then you find yourself in a situation where I'm going, okay, I'm doing this stuff, so I'm not getting artistic fulfillment in the creative way out of just doing an act that I've been doing for a long time. I like doing it, and I like to go out there because now I'm really, my philosophy surrounding what it means to be a performer and what it means to be a showman comes from the fact that I have known entities of known acts. This is a thing that exists, and I know the measure of it. It gets easier because I know this is going to kill, sometimes at level 8, sometimes at level 10. Every now and then it comes at level 7, and I'll feel really devastated and need to talk to it with others or whatever. But I have and I get to do them. So, and sometimes I get to, like when in Vegas now, doing 10 shows a week for 8 to 9 weeks on end. And you get to test it out, same thing in the same room. So, and the conditions change a little bit and all that, but you get to know what the actual experience is like, what it actually means to get because you transcend beyond the skills. I don't need to think about these things. I'm just thinking about the delivery because I know everything with it. So that means that I can go past and I focus on that thing, which has become the essence of what I do. With the way of the showman is to be there for the audience and facilitate what it is that's going on. Like I'm curating the time and attention in the best possible way. I'm not focusing on my skills. I'm just focusing on the presentation and shared experience of this thing too. So that you can do because you have these things that I know really well. But when I do believe myself to be an artist, and by that I mean that I do have a certain drive in me to do new things and to express different things. And we have gotten to this stage that we're at, and the people who listen to us, they know that we all often talk about this of going beyond the tricks.
Yeah.
And the stuff that when you're hinting what I've talked about, like doing long form work where there are tricks and there are technique and there are magic and there's all the stuff that I put into the show, but the show is about something else. My relation to my father is something that I'm working on again, and other other topics. So it's about that. It's about family. It's about life things now that I feel like I finally have. Even though I've talked about these things for a long time, you're going, okay, I have perspectives now that actually like this is, although I'm telling a story that is about me, this is more than that. I am questioning what these things are. And you make it, the example that I will be pulling from is my specific case, but I'm doing it in a general. So I'm interested in that. It's like when I'm writing poetry, I think I'm a bad poet. I'm writing usually about something and I have ideas that I want to express in the poem. And I know from some masterclass stuff that I've watched that or whatever, it's like after a while, sort of the poem is the thing in itself. And it's not me trying to say something in the poem so that I can say, well, what the poem is trying to say is this. And I'm still at that. I mean, every now and then it comes a little shard of light and something comes out and I'm going, oh, that I didn't see that coming, and now that's the idea of the poem. And I sat down to write something else. So you tune into all kinds, but be that as it may, I lost my thread a little bit, but because I just got thinking of details about a poem. But
no. I was trying to ask like what else, because I mean to really. To say it in a very random way, like what else do you get out of performing than money?
Yeah, and I think what it does is that I get something out of understanding myself in the world, because I am a performer, and because one of the things that I thought to ask you, it's like now that we have done this for a long time, can you change track? And in that point, I kind of go, I've said on the podcast before, I think in conversation with you, that during the pandemic, it became clear for me that I can't pivot to become a teacher. I can't pivot to like in Norway, you have to go to university or school for 5 years to do it. And I started to look at it and go, and even at the most worst of times, I could make that salary with less if I'm happy to do that pay cut or whatever. So I'm like, I'm a performer and I will be okay to be a performer. And you look at the salary of one of those, and then the money sort of going, if that is what I care about, then I could just do a whole lot less and do more obscure kind of stuff, and you change your life to function on less money or whatever. So now, of course, money comes into it again. And of course, that wasn't the bottom line of it, but it's that idea that I would have to go for training for 5 years to be able to teach first graders.
Yeah.
In this stuff where I'm going, I'm pretty sure that with my skills of standing facing the other way, I will be able to communicate these things. But of course, I'm not belittling what the teacher knows how to do or whatever. But I'm kind of going like, I am so late in my career and development of one type of expressing myself and understanding myself in the world that it make such a big leap as to take 5 years to learn a whole new occupation. Because teaching is maybe the same, but maybe if I'd work to be an electrician, like would I ever really actually do that? And the answer is now, I think absolutely it's becoming no.
I have a couple of things to say about that. I mean, one is that, so I grew up, now I've said it 5 times in this conversation, but grew up in Ohio. And one thing you do there is that you go to high school, graduate when you're 18. When you're 18, you go straight to college, university, whatever. You do that for 4 years. So you graduate when you're 22, you get a job, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids. This is the life I grew up in.
This is the way.
This is the way. And so I didn't do that because out of high school, I started a juggling theater company, whatever you want to call it, juggling company, up at Celebration Barn, Maine, in Maine, at the Celebration Barn. And so there was definitely a moment in the family, like my family, of like stress and struggle that, I didn't do that path, right? The way, I didn't do the way. And one thing that I recognized was that all my friends I went to high school with, they did the way. They graduated when they were 22. And a lot of student debt, because in America, you got to pay to go to university. I mean, we're talking $100,000 in debt or more, right? When you're 22, you got to start your career. And I noticed that pretty much every single person who I was friends with in high school went to college or university for a certain occupation, and they had a degree in that field with student debt, and not a single one of them got a job in that field.
Interesting.
So then I go, well, this way that I grew up in my era turns out not to be the way. And the other kind of parallel to that is, my parents' generation and a little bit my generation too, there still was that vision of like, you get a job when you're 23 and you retire when you're 65, and that's your job. And nowadays, I mean, it's like everybody's going to switch jobs 7 times in their working lives or whatever it is, right?
Is that the thing?
Yeah, I mean, nobody these days expects to get a job at 23 and keep that job until you're 60
years.
Until you're 65, right? And so I think about that where I go, okay, I'm pretty glad I didn't follow the structured system, because I would just have been saddled with debt and not in the field of my degree, and I would have been working at a grocery store or something. Nothing wrong with that, but other than I would have spent 4 years in a school, which I could have skipped, And so that's one thing I think where it's like, can we change what we're doing? Is it too late to change? And it's like, well, on one hand, no, because what I'm trying to paint is this picture of like, at least from our generation, I don't know how it was in Norway, but
same time.
We're the same age, right? So it's like you kind of grew up with this cultural expectation, and I think we have that romantic image of circus arts being rebellious and on the fringe of society already, and kind of bucking trends and being transgressive or, subversive and all these things. And so in that way you can say, yeah, like we're more in control of our destiny maybe than kind of this set path or whatever. But then on the other hand, I always had this idea in my life, because I was so sick of touring I mean, for 8 years in the 2000s, I didn't have a house, a home. I lived out of a suitcase on the road, contract to contract. And thank goodness I had work, but I just got so sick of it. And I said, okay, one day if I ever have kids, that'll be the day I stop touring. It would be my excuse to settle down and like maybe get a real job or or I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so I have a kid who's 10, and like I have to say, I did the math like 10 years ago where I was like, oh, if I stop performing, I could go work at Starbucks or I could go work at a cafe. And I did the math and I'm like, oh my God, it would be better financially for me to sit at my computer from 9 to 5 every day, Monday to Friday for a month and just email trying to get one gig. And that one gig that I would get for my juggling fee would be equivalent of like my monthly salary working at like a cafe. Right. So like financially,
this is the same thing that I was just saying before. And I don't want to make it about the money, but it's when I struggle and I'm afraid for not being able to pay the bills and take care of my dependents and all this.
Yeah.
Then that's what I look at okay, well, if I go and do this other job because there are lots of jobs that makes considerably more money than me, but you don't get them if you start educating yourself at 50.
Well, so yeah,
that's one thing. And this,
So then there, like to wrap up this, I don't know if it's making any sense. This kind of, it's like a trilogy of the thought here, but like this idea that we should have gone this certain path and already we're deviating off the path. So we're kind of in control of our own destiny. But now it's like, okay, then the second part of the story is like, could we not be performers and maybe go integrate into normal society or whatever? I hate saying that, but like a more normal job. And then you go, well, financially, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe it makes sense in other ways, like because there would be you wouldn't hustle anymore. You would have your working hours. Everything's more clear, reliable paycheck. The uncertainty is gone. All the whatever. Yeah. So then the third part of the story would be, I was thinking about moving to Iceland. My wife and I were maybe going to move to Iceland. And so the thing is, in Iceland, they're really, and by the way, when I say I wanted to move to Iceland, what I mean is I wanted to move to there. I didn't want to live there and then travel to work.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want it to be my home base for touring. Like if I moved to Iceland, I actually wanted to be in Iceland. That's the whole point of moving to Iceland. So then I go, okay, Iceland doesn't have a performing scene. They don't have a really like a cultural grant system, at least for circus, for what I'm doing. So then I did sit down and have a moment and go, where you play that game and you go, we are performers, Frodo, but we also inhabit all these different skills. We code websites, we edit videos, we write ad copy, like all these auxiliary skills around self-producing shows. We know how to organize a rehearsal. We know how to lead. We could be a tour guide. We could, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like I sat down and tried to make a list of like, these are all the skills I possess. And if I move to Iceland, what job could I, Venn diagram these skills into another job? I didn't find one, but that was a game to play, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, maybe tour guide is like a real, because it's like a performance, like you're giving a speech and you're giving people an experience. You're taking them through nature, telling some stories. And
I use that often in because Miranda does it a little bit. Yeah. And I use it as an image of what we do. Take people on a there you go, on a guided tour through a territory that you have prepared. Just in our territory, we have prepared the whole of the experience, and what I am going to do is the experience. They interface more with geography and history, perhaps.
There you go. Yeah.
So I think
so I think there is that game to play of like if you want to change your life and go in a new direction, I think we can also sit down and say, well, as performers, we have lots of different skills that are beyond the literal, like being on stage kind of thing. But again, for me personally, just to kind of wrap that whole thing up, is like, again, I just don't think I have the mental ability. Like, I think I've lost the mental ability. Like, if you put me, this sounds like I'm not trying to be arrogant or saying I'm above it. I'm saying the opposite. Like, if you put me in a cafe, dude, at 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. or whatever it is, 8 to 6, and you want me to do that work, I don't think I could do it. I think I would just not have the mental skills to navigate that rhythm or that.
I would be exhausted. I'd be physically unable to do it. I'd be mentally like I couldn't cope with it.
You would actually do a bad job because you can't get
100%.
your head around to it or so. Yeah.
100%.
No, we are shaped by the choices that we've made and very specific skills that we have. And yes, they Venn diagram with all kinds of other things, but the way that I work with my creative process that then channels into curtain goes up and I have something to present is very different from you putting in the hours every day from 5 to 7 and all that. And I don't know also if I could do so well with doing that swap. But it's gone to the hour, so let's wrap it up. And I thought, as always, I go, let's just do 1 hour about this, and we are still on question 1.
Okay.
So let's.
Can I?
Yeah,
I wanted to
wrap this up.
Well, I wanted to wrap it up by asking you a question. Like, don't you feel in your career? Do you feel that it's getting harder? Like from either side, artistically or business side, is it harder to book shows? Is it harder to do the shows?
No, I think maybe the struggle is kind of similar, but on average. Yeah. But there are certain aspects of it that are changing in me.
Fair.
And you have already touched on some of these things of get it easy or whatever. But I have expectations and I have stuff that I want, and this is what we'll delve into next. I think in what that is that we want to create. But I'm starting to feel like it's really time for me to take some new steps, and some of those steps I've started to take, and some of it is just in embryo, and some of it is on different levels of, but some of it has to do then with artistic development as opposed to the other stuff. So
cool, man.
Let's go into that. But I think Ivar Heckscher is right. There are strong parallels in what of the human experience that we go through, and we are now asking the questions that are asked not just by Jay and Frodo, but by people at this end of their career.
Right. Yeah, fair.
This part of their life. Because what we're thinking of here, framed through the lens of showmanship and through the lens of doing shows and creating circus arts, for lack of a better grouping, people are feeling if you've done your life in plumbing or you're done, like the midlife crisis or whatever, this thing that I have reached a point of my existence where the end is closer than the beginning. So with that said, let's put a pin in this. And
I have one more thing, because you said we're going to talk about maybe some more artistic things next. So one last practical question.
Yeah,
I'm so curious about this. What you would say? Do you feel the younger generation nipping at your heels? Is there any aspect of that in your life where you're like, man, I'm losing gigs to those kids? I'm just curious. Like,
I don't. No, I don't feel it.
Yeah,
and part of the reason also is that some of the gigs and some of the stuff that they are really excited about is not the stuff that I am excited about now. So this is the thing of the artistic change. I don't want to take those gigs, and it's not that my gigs are so cushy by any stretch. I go and I work all day, and you drive 7 hours and you get there and you have to check out at a hotel because you can't go into the theater until 5 the next day. So I got to sit in my car for a few hours in some small town where the only hotel is out. It's like 35 minutes outside of town.
Yeah,
this is a roadside hotel. That's the hotel that the theater is using. So like, I'm still doing those kinds of gigs where it's not fancy or whatever, but I don't feel like it's also because I have been so long in the industry that when I do get the call here, they're not after a guy that can do some contortion and then you're on the list.
This is valuable. They're after you.
They're after me.
Yeah.
And
Did you ever consciously curate that in your life? It just happened to be like that. I mean, it's a great thing, but you never, like 20 years ago, said, I have a long vision here. I better create.
No. I think I have always striven towards expressing myself and do stuff that I believe in my acts, and I think that I have managed to, by luck or by design or by a bit of both or by whatever it is, to have so much of what I am and my sensibilities in my acts that they have been unique. And I know to some extent that was there in the beginning, just from the youthful enthusiasm, where I kind of have had this naive feeling from the beginning that I had something great to offer.
Yeah.
And now I like, but I didn't have an act yet.
Yeah.
Didn't know, you couldn't quite. But put me on a stage, and I'm so there in a moment and making this, and I'm going to show you some stuff. And even though sometimes when I look at what I did, it was half baked, or even with something when it isn't half baked, the way that the Happy Side Show took the Glastonbury Festival in the 2000 seater with a standing ovation, and we did all this, and that is on video, and we have looked back at it, and it's an embarrassing piece of performance compared to what we grew into. Right. It was so early in our career, but we were at the edge of our ability, and the audience could feel it, and we did these big stunts, and it was like, it was epic, even though it did get better and more refined or whatever.
Yeah, man.
So there's something in there where have had that naive kind of thing, that I have something to add to the conversation of life, or I have something to add as a performer. And then now I'm starting to have enough that I can come and deliver that on demand. Yesterday at
I get you.
the theater here. So,
yeah, I get you. Cool, man.
Right.
Well, you be you.
See you next time. I'll be me until I see you next time.
All right, going deep with Jay Gilligan. Yeah, that's right. Into the existential questions. And at least when you've been in this game for a long time, like the two of us have, these are really natural kind of questions to ask. You know, it comes to a point in your life when you have to ask yourself, is this going to be the sum of what I have done and what I will have contributed to the world? So I think interesting. We will, there is another bunch of episodes of me and him talking while he is rolling his balls, so to speak. Rolling and creating this, it's amazing that somebody is so dedicated that he spends all that time rolling that up for these fleeting moments of visual joy that the audience gets as they watch the Ivar Balls. And Ivar Balls are, of course, a reference to Ivar Heckscher. I can't remember if we actually talked about that in this episode, but Ivar Heckscher, who was the inspiration by asking probing questions, and some of you might remember Ivar from. There's at least 3 episodes where Ivar is talking. An 80-year-old man with a background in creating schools and an interest in the esoteric teachings of Rudolf Steiner. So me and him have some interesting conversations about that, and I hope that the fruitfulness of some of those things that I explore a little bit in my book, although I don't really talk about Steiner in that book, but some of those ideas that I talk about in The Way of the Showman, a philosophical map of showmanship, which is what the name of the book is, that you've already heard me do a little talk about it, that some of those ideas in there would be the kind of stuff that you arrive at when you have the angle that Ivar and I have. And some of those thoughts and ideas have rubbed off from Ivar and has sparked this beautiful act where balls, the juggling balls are literally coming apart in the air in puffs of leaves and ribbons and confetti, and leaves you with that final beautiful moment when Jay is left there with nothing left to juggle. It's just a juggler left. And one of the few juggling acts that quite frequently brings the audience to tears. So that's what's going on while we're talking, as you know. So that was just a shout out to Ivar and the inspiration that he is for all of us. So until next time, take care of yourself and those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.